Good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Myers, if you could please call the roll.
Jennifer Ashburn.
Here.
Marianne Baxter. Abby Bemis.
Here.
Diane Corso.
Here.
Adriana Guerra. Billy Hill.
Here.
David Miller.
Here.
Mark Pfeiffer.
Here.
Tim Schwanger.
Here.
Elizabeth Semler. Tom Schra.
Here.
Jennifer Torres.
Here.
Levada Wilson.
Here.
Mike Zuloff.
Here.
Thank you. Our first item of business are the minutes from the June 10th meeting.
Make a motion.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Next would be public comment. No one in attendance here for public comment tonight. So we'll move right into our agenda. You have received in advance of the meeting, again, our final list of recommended changes to the charter. This time there is an addition based on committee member feedback to indicate how these changes are prioritized among us. I'm interpreting this as more points mean lower ranking in priority. Thank you for putting this together for us. So. I know there was some discussion at our last meeting, a couple of routes we could go as a committee. One would be to advance all of this list, and I think we can be under the assumption, if that were the case, that the City Commission would really be doing the prioritizing, and they ultimately decide what goes on the ballot either way. But there was some discussion as to whether we ourselves would like to limit this list some more so that the commission can better understand our priorities as a committee and what stood out to us as most significant and important for this city to consider on a ballot. So with that context, any discussion on prioritization? Otherwise, I think we could simply go through the list really
Madam Chair.
by vote.
I give this a lot of thought, and I realized, we've got a menu of 11 items here. It would seem that we could cull this down quite a bit because some of them really belong together. It makes no sense to pass one without the other. So they could be placed in groups as single items very easily. I wasn't surprised to see that the items 1 and 2 did really well, and I would put them in the category of administrative efficiency. It makes, it's like, let's do this. It makes the city work better and run more efficiently. Of course, we should fix that, right? So I can see how that was a high priority, but they really kind of belong together. Why would you pass one with the other, without the other? So it would, if you're looking at ballot items, why not combine them? 3 and 4, and I would put in the category of integrity, maybe the recall stuff, also integrity, but, the recall stuff, how likely is it to be used? I can see how a lot of us thought, it's not that important to change because it doesn't come up that often, right? It is doable the way it is. But the form of government obviously has to go with, so 5 and 6 have to go together anyway. So maybe if we frame this as, 4, 5, 6 items, it would be make a bunch more sense. And the last one I'd say is the gender issue, number 10. that's in a class by itself, really, because it's really about, I don't know, social justice. I know that's not the flavor of the month, but I'd say, come on, we couldn't even pass an ERA amendment at the national level. Doesn't mean we can't do something, if only symbolic, at the local level. Let's do that. That's all I have to say about it.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Schwarner.
For discussion purposes, I'll make a motion that we move the 1 through 6 on to the City Commission for approval or disapproval to the ballot, 1 through 6.
I don't hear a second to that
Second.
motion, so I,
Second.
okay.
Well, Madam Chair,
Yes, discussion.
if you're looking for discussion, I'd say, again, they cry for grouping together. I wouldn't, City Commission might be inclined to pass the stuff on form of government, but not the expenditure stuff and the civil service stuff, right? So again, do we really want to? We're obviously not going to. They obviously can parse and separate it, I suppose. I don't know how that would work. These are just recommendations, so they can do anything they want, right?
Correct. Yeah, these are only recommendations from this body. The City Commission can do it all or none or
Right.
anything in between.
So
And change them too. They could change the language as well.
And it could move forward. Like I said, we might realize that it doesn't make sense to send one without the other in certain cases, and that could still happen. So maybe I don't care.
So Madam
My
Chair,
preference would be to tackle more individually, but yes.
that was my question. So for a point of, does it make more sense that each one is determined whether it moves on individually versus making it blanket 1 through 6, maybe each one is separate in its own entity? I don't know what the typical process would be for making a recommendation. Would you recommend one and vote on that and recommend,
Yeah, that's what our
2?
recommendation is. I think that's how this Charter
supposed to
Review
go.
Commission has proceeded in the past. And I only note that 5 and 6 are kind of unique. I mean, that actually changes the form of government here.
Right.
And probably ought to be voted on separately.
So then in the past, the committee has voted on each one of the potential recommendations
I've
separately.
seen them in writing. You've had time to think about them. Now is the time to look at them individually and decide which ones to recommend to the City Commission.
Through you,
Any-
Madam Chair. I seconded that motion for the discussion, if nothing else. I think that there is some logic in 1 through 6, and that 5 and 6, too, that need to be considered together are both there, and I've kind of felt like that's where Tim was drawing a line. And I would challenge Mike, if there's others that don't make sense individually of the 1 through 6, because I think the groupings kind of might coincide with that. But what I find interesting is that 1 through 6, and then there's a significant break in what the committee thinks is their priorities between 6 and 7. So whether or not we vote individually on them, which I'm fine to do, I think I'm looking for the discussion of, does it make sense to submit more than what they would possibly consider, or we don't know exactly the financial implications of asking for too much, not that the city commission would likely do that, but I'm fine to go one by one. I'm just looking for a kind of a consensus of, are we going to try to advance them all, or we'll vote them down individually now, that we haven't done before to this point?
Question. Will the commissioners look at have the same information that we have, and will they then decide what they want to do, or are we deciding what we want them to do?
commissioners would have our list of approved recommendations from the committee. So I believe unless they're tuning into the meeting or unless we can indicate how these were prioritized in our letter of recommendation,
Well, yeah, this
it
is
would be
all
limited to this.
public record.
Sure.
I know for a fact that some commissioners watch these online. So they will know what you did. And also, to make it crystal clear, we will draft, the law department will draft a letter from you to the commission spelling out the recommendations. And we will do it individual charter sections, and we will need at least 8 signatures on that letter to move it forward to the commission.
I will have the letter ready for you between June 30th and July 3rd in the lobby in a folder, so you could stop by at any time, make sure, read the letter and sign it. But it's basically going to have the language that law has already previously drafted.
Madam Chair, I think what we need to be agreeing on is, do we want to send all 11? Which I don't think that we do. We collectively have met many times and came up with a list of 11 of them. Then we voted. So and the votes came out to, like, I agree with Tim, 1 through 6. We got what were the most important collectively, how we voted. So right now, I think we'll be here debating whether or not if I was very strong on number 11. So I'm still going to try to push it. But I think collectively, we voted, and we just pretty much need to figure out, we can go through each one, but if we're going through each one, it's basically an individual saying, well, I was real adamant on this. But collectively, we already came up with the priority of which ones were very important based on our vote.
I think there is a ranking, the number with
Yes.
which gets submitted. I wouldn't say there's an automatic consensus on.
Right. But to my knowledge, didn't we, when we turned this in, we turned this in based on voting, correct? Like, so, did you rank them that way? Like number 1 was the highest votes?
I brought all my figuring with
Yes.
me. So the reason 25 expenditures became number 1 was, of all the votes, it received 2 4s, 2 3s, and all the rest were 2s and 1s as the most important.
So, yes.
So I
Yes.
added
Right.
all the numbers together, the 14 numbers, and that obviously became number 1 because it
Right,
was the
correct.
lowest. And we put number 1 as the most important.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Zullo.
I've got to say, I wasn't going to bring it up, but I think this was expedient to rank them, just to see where we were. But any attempt to quantify or ascribe quantitative meaning to a simple ranking isn't valid. It maybe would loosely correlate. If you scored each one quantitatively and then totaled that, it would be quantitatively valid. But simply ranking them, it might be that I ranked it from 1 to 10, right? But it might be that I thought that that my number 1 would have scored 5 stars and all the rest might have scored 1 star. So there's only the loosest quantitative meaning to this particular ranking system. So don't put too much into it.
Madam Chair, what is the fear of sending all 11 with the way that we have ranked them?
I think personally, I would say if we send all 11, we're charging the commission to prioritize.
But they will do
don't-
that if we send 1 through 6,
They
too.
will also do that, yep. And they are our elected representatives. I don't necessarily have an issue with that, aside from whether there are items that we want to be really clear were very important to us. That might be lost in the message, but.
Madam Chair, Would we not gain that information if we were to simply take each one of them individually? And if they do not receive a majority vote, then that one that does not receive the majority vote would not then move forward?
Correct.
And they all
Didn't we
have
do
received
that
a
already?
majority vote. by
We have
this
to, at this point,
Yeah.
but then we have to vote on them again tonight, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Because now we have final
Now you have
language.
final language, and you've had more time to think about it.
Madam
Yes.
Chair.
Mr. Schumer.
The purpose of my motion basically was, number one, we voted on them like Mr. Hill said, weeks ago or a few meetings ago. And then we were asked to rank each one, so we voted twice. And this, I'm going to disagree with Mr. Zuloff. We did rank, we had 1 through 11. Everybody sent in their 1 through 11s. And this pretty much is what this committee agreed with was the most important issues, 1 through 11. And the reason why I went 1 through 6 in the motion, which, by the way, needs a vote yet, is because the concern at the last meeting is that if we send all 11 of these, there was a kind of concern about verbiage, and it was going to be too lengthy of verbiage on the charter, or on the ballot. I guess I did have one question, though, and I asked it at the last meeting. The entire paragraph as it's written right now in each one of these does not have to be included on the ballot. It's only the change.
Correct. That'll be up to the city commission as to how to craft the ballot. But we did that for you so that you could see the whole charter section, including its changes.
Well, it was thought at the last meeting that the entire paragraph had to be included on the ballot, which we found out is not true.
Well, it could be. I've seen ballots that did.
Well, I'm
have
just
that.
going by the
Yeah.
last 3 times Sandusky did it, 2015,
Correct.
10.
And I'm aware of other cities and how the state has
Right.
done it.
Right. So, what I tried to do here with that motion is to take everybody's concerns about verbiage, and we've done this, exercise here where we've ranked. We've got the ranking, and to go back and vote one by one again is redundant, in my opinion. I mean, we've already
We have a
voted
final
twice, so why vote a third time? It doesn't make any sense to me. Let's get this process going.
With all due respect, Madam Chair, I do not feel comfortable with that because if we lump things, there may be things that I don't necessarily support. And so then that would require me to potentially abstain or negate the entire process.
Understood.
Madam
I
Chair.
also disagree and am more of the perspective of Mr. Zuloff that, for example, when I put in my vote, I initially only wanted to vote for 3 because those were 3 that were important to me and essentially had to make this process work. Mr. Zuloff.
Yeah, if we just stopped goofing around and just ran through them one by one, there would be a record of the votes.
Madam
City-
Chair, I'd like to
uh,
withdraw my second.
You can't do that. Sorry.
I think you
You
can.
can.
No, you can't.
Just vote on it. Just vote on
Yeah,
it.
just
You can vote it down, but
Vote
you-
it down, and then somebody needs to make
Yeah.
another motion.
So
Or you
we,
could make a motion to amend.
All right,
first.
if I could finish my point and then we can go on. If we vote on them each individually, the city commission will have right in front of them the scores. How many number one, how many voted for number one all the way down, and that will pretty much lay out what our priorities were. I can't think of a more clear way to do it. So if we happen to vote this one down, I will then make the motion that we just go through them one by one, unless the chair simply decides to do it that way.
Is that a motion to amend the first motion? We have a
Well, if
motion
that
and a
would be-
second to vote on the first 6.
If that would be more expedient to amend the motion to simply vote on all of them one by one, I'd be happy to do that. If that would take a second.
motion to amend.
I'll
Or
second.
Second. So we need to vote on the amended motion.
Correct.
Ms. Myers, could you please call the roll?
The amended motion is,
To vote on them
vote.
We're
one by
voting
one.
on amending the motion to vote one by one.
To vote on them one by one.
Yes.
Yes. And a yes vote would be, yes, let's vote on them one by one. A no vote will be not to vote on them one by one. Jennifer Ashburn,
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
Yes.
Diane Corso,
Yes.
Billy Hill,
No.
David Miller,
yes.
Mark Pfeiffer,
Yes.
Tim Schwanger,
No.
Tom Sharrow,
Yes.
Jennifer Torres,
Yes.
Levada Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff.
Yes.
Very good.
Passes.
So beginning with item 1, we would be looking for a motion to advance this recommendation to City Commission.
Do you need me to read, or is everyone clear on the items?
In which order are we doing these, this or
Yeah,
this?
because we have,
Yeah,
number
Oh,
one
thank you.
is expenditures in the ranking, and number 1 is gender in the,
it would be up to you, Madam President. How would you?
I have the form with the rankings in front of me, so I'm going with that.
okay, so that'd be section 25 expenditures.
Yes.
Question. It says points on the side, so the things, the items that get the most points are the items that the most people want?
No.
The other way around?
No.
Lowest ranking.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So like this ended up in first place, second place.
Yeah, the lowest
Still
received the most ones
looking for a
and
motion.
twos. Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Sure, I'm sorry.
Okay, motion from Diane, second?
Second.
Okay, so
And what is that motion?
a yes would be to advance the
Expenditures.
change of expenditures to City Commission.
Charter section 25. I'm going to repeat this just so that we're all.
Please, thank you,
And that was Diane, and it was seconded by
Tom.
Tom. Okay, I'm calling for the vote. Jennifer Ashburn,
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
Yes.
Diane Corso,
Yes.
Billy Hill,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer,
Yes.
Tim Schwanger,
Yes.
Tom Sharrow,
Yes.
Jennifer Torres,
Yes.
Levada Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff.
Yes.
That's an all.
Okay. Looking at section 27, civil service, change to state rules. Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Very good.
Jennifer Ashburn,
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
Yes.
Diane Corso,
Yes.
Billy Hill,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer,
Yes.
Tim Schwanger,
Yes.
Tom Sharrow,
Yes.
Jennifer Torres,
Yes.
Levada Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff.
Yes.
That would be all.
Section 41, bids in excess of estimate, changing that to 20%.
Motion.
Second.
Jennifer Ashburn,
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
Yes.
Diane Corso,
Yes.
Billy Hill,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer,
Yes.
Tim Schwanger,
Yes.
Tom Sharrow,
Yes.
Jennifer Torres,
Yes.
Levada Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff.
Yes.
That would be all.
Section 43, general disqualifications, changing that to state rules.
Make the motion.
Second.
Jennifer Ashburn,
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
No.
Diane Corso,
No.
Billy Hill,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer,
Yes.
Tim Schwanger,
Yes.
Tom Sharrow,
Yes.
Jennifer Torres,
Yes.
Levada Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff.
Yes.
That passes, 2 noes.
Section 2, form of government, change to elected.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Jennifer Ashburn,
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
No.
Diane Corso,
No.
Billy Hill,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer,
No.
Tim Schwanger,
Yes.
Tom Sharrow,
No.
Jennifer Torres,
Yes.
Levada Wilson,
Yes.
Mike Zuloff.
No.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
were there 6 yeses on that one,
Yeah,
correct?
5 noes.
5 noes. We will need 8 people to sign the letter if that one's going to go forward.
So
Okay.
therefore, it fails.
Well,
Ma-
if the rest come in and sign, but it
I
has
mean,
not,
It doesn't go on the letter if it doesn't pass
right, does not
hereby.
go on the letter if
Yes.
we don't get
But
8
there's other
votes.
Yes.
potential signatories than are here tonight, correct? The
Right, you're
people who are
missing how
not
many?
in
3?
attendance, they are still eligible to sign the letter?
So in,
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I was just.
see,
I don't know.
that would
Thank you.
change the, how do you comprise a letter? Then you would have to put all the items on the letter. See what I'm saying? It would negate the whole vote tonight if you include the other 4.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Zaloff?
it would seem we are required by charter to send a letter for a charter change, right? Okay.
Correct.
Does it specify one letter?
We could make that a separate letter. That would make sense.
It could be, it could be a separate letter for each one outlining who, with different signatures, but there's no assurance that the signatures will match the vote. On the other hand, we could send a letter outlining the recommendations, tallying who voted for what, and all sign the letter. It's true, right? I don't know. There's a couple creative ways to make this perfect.
Well,
Kind
yeah,
of ball's going to be in your
we
court.
need 8 votes to send it to the commission. Up until now, all we've needed is a majority of a quorum,
Okay,
which this vote was, but to send a actual recommendation to a commission of a body comprising 14 on this commission, we need 8.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Schwanger?
did anybody look back to the last 2 charter amendments, how they did this letter? I mean, I thought it was one letter with all changes, and then everybody signed it, not individual 11 letters. So, I mean,
Yeah,
Right.
but that, in that case, each of those potential changes had 8 votes. We don't have 8 votes on this particular provision.
okay, but we still have a quorum today, right?
The letter.
You have a quorum, but you need 8 votes to send it to the commission. You need a majority of this commission to send it to the general commission.
And where do we find that stipulation at, where you have to have 8?
You have to have a supermajority.
Yeah, that has been done. In fact, last time, the law director said every vote had to have 8, and I thought that was
Okay,
too much. But this particular vote has to have 8.
okay. It seems kind of, I can't find the right word for it, but I mean, it just passed here, and now we've got a letter that's holding up, moving it to the city commission. I mean, how many more things can we put in line so that this issue here does not go to the city commission? I mean, is there more things that, if we get 8 people to sign a letter, is there something behind that that's still going to prevent it from going to the city commission?
Well, the city commission can receive any letter from anybody.
Mhm.
And if 8 members and they can, when they get the recommendation from this commission, as I've said, they can choose all of it, they can choose none of it, they can choose pieces, parts, or if somebody else out there in the world suggests a charter change that would be great for the city of Sandusky, they can do that too. So I would encourage you to send such a letter, but it wouldn't come from this body, it would come
Right.
from the individuals who are signing the letter.
Point of order,
Mr. Zaloff?
Madam Chair, we did vote, and it was 6-5 in favor, is that what I understood?
Correct.
Okay. So without a motion on the table, we should either have a motion or stop talking about stuff.
If I can understand, we already voted on it twice, and it passed. But now it's being held up because it doesn't have 8
Yes, has to have 8,
before it goes on.
correct.
Okay. But we already decided 2 times that we wanted to submit this to the commission?
Everything else was preliminary up till now. Now is the vote, the final vote that sends it to the commission.
Okay.
Can you clarify, when you're saying we need 8 votes so we can get an outside letter, clarify that for me, please? Like, what type, individuals? Are you talking about citizens?
Yeah, anybody can send a letter to the commission. Any citizen of this, the city of Sandusky can petition their government. That's in our U.S. Constitution.
Right.
It wouldn't be an official letter from this commission, but if 8 members of this commission sign such a letter, I think that would be sort of persuasive. But they wouldn't be doing it as an official commission, they would be doing it as 8 individuals. But 6 votes does not, that's not even a majority of this commission.
I understand that part. I just wanted to see if we wanted to push something, if the citizens still had a voice. I mean, that's what I was asking for, what individuals could actually send a letter to clarify that. So, when you're saying, all right, just say change to elected, it was just voted down, like Ms. Ashburn said, collectively, it's somewhat passed here. So my son, who is 32 years old, he can write a letter, correct?
Correct.
You're saying, okay, that's what I was asking for.
Yeah, anybody can write a letter, but you can also, if 8 members of this commission said, look, I wasn't there at the meeting, I really meant to vote for this particular provision, please consider it seriously, city commission. I'm not going to draft the whole letter for you, but.
No, believe me, I have.
Madam Chair, one last point.
Mr. Schwanger?
So there's no chance of putting all, whatever we vote on, yes, to put on the ballot, there's no chance of just one letter signed by everybody on this committee. Now, if that's not.
No, there could be. I mean, if, again, this one failed tonight, and this is the last meeting, if other provisions all get more than 8 votes, there will be a letter of all the things that got 8 votes, and that will be sent to the commission from this body.
Okay. I guess the way I'm looking at it is we do one letter with our recommendations of yes. I personally am not going to sign, I'm not going to find a way to not sign that letter just because I disagree with one of the 6 or 7 things that are on that letter. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
If we pass the expenditures state law, which is 77,000, just because I disagree with that does not mean that I'm not going to sign that letter of recommendation to send these 7 items on one letter to the city commission. That would be stupid on my behalf. And actually, just, like, I shouldn't be looking at this personally. I should be going with what everybody is approving. So I don't see a reason why we would have to send potentially 11 individual letters.
No, yeah, we will send one letter with everything that gets 8 votes tonight, just so that's clear. So there'll be, presumably, if it got 8 votes, hopefully you voted for it. But there'll be one letter with 8 votes where, and at least 8 people have to sign that letter.
Madam Chair?
So, to clarify, it's less to be placed on the letter, you need the supermajority of this committee as a
Well,
total.
you
That's
need-
why these things are not.
It's actually a
placed
simple
on the letter.
majority because there are
Simple
14 members of the committee. So you need 8 votes of the 14 to put it in the letter.
And that's by the rules. This
Right.
isn't a decision that we're coming up with.
Correct.
Mr. Zulauf?
No, I was just going to suggest that we voted to go through this process, that we complete it, and then if we need to discuss more what happens, do it then, but let's get this over with. Respectfully.
Do I hear a motion?
Well, it requires a motion. We began the process, and then we started talking, but
Need a
we should be, I think, since we voted for this process, that we should be continuing to vote for each one.
So are you
Let's-
making a motion
I'm
for
asking-
Section 3?
No, I'm making a point of order that
Yeah,
we
don't-
decided to do that, and we should continue. No motion is required.
Yeah,
We need to continue this.
There already was a motion, a second, and the majority voted to vote on them one by one.
Right, so we should be,
Oh, so we don't need one
Discussing the
each
result
time.
of the last vote.
we need to
yes.
continue voting.
Yeah, he's
on each
suggesting that it's time to move on.
Got it. And you're saying I don't need a motion for us to call a roll for section 3? There's
Yeah, oh, yeah, that you
essentially
do.
already been
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry.
No, the
I-
next one would be section 3, number 6, and there does need to be a vote on that one.
To answer the chair's question, yes, that's a motion to vote on number 6, 3, City Commission.
There, now we got there.
Now I get it. I'm sorry. My apologies.
Is there a second?
Second.
Myers?
Jennifer Ashburn? We're voting on change towards combine with 2.
Number
Yes.
6.
Yes.
Abby Bemis?
No.
Diane Corso?
No.
Billy Hill?
Yes.
David Miller?
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer?
No.
Tim Schwanger?
Yes.
Tom Shara?
No.
Jennifer Torres?
Yes.
Levada Wilson?
Yes.
Mike Zuloff?
No.
Fails.
I counted 6 yeses. I'm sorry.
Correct, but we need 8.
Correct, you
Right,
have to
that's
have
correct,
8.
6 to 5.
Yes, okay. Sorry, thanks.
Looking at section 67, notice to change to 10%.
So moved.
Second.
Jennifer Ashburn?
No.
Abby Bemis?
No.
Diane Corso?
No.
Billy Hill?
No.
David Miller?
No.
Mark Pfeiffer?
No.
Tim Schwanger?
No.
Tom Shara?
No.
Jennifer Torres?
No.
Levada Wilson?
No.
Mike Zuloff?
No.
Fails.
Looking at section 66, recall petitions, changing to state rules.
So moved.
The motion?
Second.
Jennifer Ashburn?
Yes.
Abby Bemis?
No.
Diane Corso?
No.
Billy Hill?
Yes.
David Miller?
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer?
Yes.
Tim Schwanger?
Yes.
Tom Shara?
Yes.
Jennifer Torres?
No.
Levada Wilson?
No.
Mike Zuloff?
Yes.
I have 7 to 4. That failed.
Is it 7 yes or 7 no?
7 yeses.
Yeah, you need 8.
Thank you.
Section 29, advisory boards, changing to city residents' priority.
So moved. Second.
Jennifer Ashburn?
Yes.
Abby Bemis?
Yes.
Diane Corso?
No.
Billy Hill?
Yes.
David Miller?
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer?
Yes.
Tim Schwanger?
Yes.
Tom Shara?
Yes.
Jennifer Torres?
No.
Levada Wilson?
Yes.
Mike Zuloff?
Yes.
I have 8 to 3.
That passes.
Looking at section 1B, gender, law to draft reference to no gender.
So moved.
Motion.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Jennifer Ashburn?
Yes.
Abby Bemis?
No.
Diane Corso?
No.
Billy Hill?
No.
David Miller?
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer?
Yes.
Tim Schwanger?
No.
Tom Shara?
No.
Jennifer Torres?
Yes.
Levada Wilson?
Yes.
Mike Zuloff?
Yes.
6 to 5. It fails.
I have against. I mean, it fails either way, but, okay.
Did I hear 6 yes?
6 yes.
Yeah, I had, there are 6 yeses and 5 nos, right?
Yes, that's what I had.
Yep.
Lastly, section 68, recall election, changing to state rules.
Motion.
Second.
Jennifer Ashburn?
Yes.
Abby Bemis,
No.
Diane Corso,
No.
Billy Hill,
Yes.
David Miller,
Yes.
Mark Pfeiffer,
No.
Tim Schwanger,
Yes.
Tom Sherrod,
No. No.
Jennifer Torres,
No.
Levada Wilson,
No.
Mike Zuloff.
No.
4-7. That failed.
Failed.
What was the number?
Failed.
Number?
4 yeses.
Thank you.
7 noes. So we're giving item 25, 27, 41, 43, and 29.
Could you repeat that, please?
We are bringing forward 25, 27, 41, 43, and 29. So we are giving 5 items of suggestion to the commission.
Any other items of old business? Any items of new business? So, Mr. Hastings, or Ms. Myers, could you recap what happens next?
Sure. And by the way, before I do that, heartfelt thanks to this committee. Spent a lot of time working on this issue, which happens once every 5 years. A charter change is a dramatic thing. It's not meant to be easy. It requires almost a consensus to do. So, this was a good discussion, good group. As a lawyer, I appreciated working with all of you. Next, we will draft a letter with the 5 proposed changes. And as Kathy said, it'll be out front. And we'll send it to you so you look at it first.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
So we're going to send it to you first so you get a chance to look at it. And then it'll have the 5 suggested changes that'll go to the city commission. And then, you need at least 8 people to sign it. And all of those 5 got at least 8 votes tonight, so hopefully that won't be an issue. And then finally, for those of you who might be disappointed on things that you wanted to go forward but didn't, that's not the end of the process. As I said, everybody has a right to petition their government. You get 8 people from this commission to sign such a letter, 1 or 2. That's something I know they would read.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Zuloff?
Yeah, a couple of things I didn't get a chance, just didn't, I guess it feels right now, and I apologize for not being here at the last meeting. I think it was an important meeting. You guys got a lot done. We had a death in the family. I had to be out of state. But I was kind of blown away with how well it was run and how well this committee kind of pulled it together. There's an aphorism about bodies and how they work. It's forming, storming, norming, and performing. And we kind of went through that, like a lot of nothing got done, after we formed, a lot of storming, a lot of what's going on here, kind of normed how we made decisions became normal, and then we performed. And I think we did all right. We should pat ourselves on the back. Just saying.
Any other closing comments? I agree with what's been said, and I wanted to thank, of course, city staff as well. It takes a lot to organize this many people and provide us all the information that you did throughout the process, so thank you for your patience with all of us as
Hear,
we
hear.
learned this.
I would just like to say thank you on behalf of the city as well for all of your work. It was, there was a lot of great feedback, that's what makes good decisions, and we appreciate all your time and effort in this endeavor. Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, dear.
Specialty.
Oh, thank you. No, it was
This was fun. Good summer. Enjoy those kids. I can't take care of your eyes anymore.
long,
Growing old and
long time.
irrelevant.